Are we ready with the live feed?
Yes, it should be starting now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or should I say good evening? If you joined us earlier today, you know we had an issue with our internet and we have it resolved, and so we're going to go on with our meeting. I'm Lana Calavo, and I'm the interim superintendent for Natalia ISD. The purpose of this meeting is to provide you with a range of information, primarily around how we're going to start school and what remote instruction may look like. I also want you to know that we have lots of meetings with TEA and the commissioner, and things change all the time. So the information you have is based on what we know today, and it could change. Today, our purpose again is to present information regarding the 2020 school year. You may submit questions through the chat box, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. The answers to questions that we don't get to, we'll post on our question and answer document that you can find on our website. I want to give you some general information from TEA so that you have it, and from the district as well. School will begin for all students on August 24th. That will be our first day of instruction. We'll begin remotely for everyone so that we can work out the kinks with remote instruction. And then we will begin to phase into on-campus instruction for those who choose on-campus instruction. You will always have that choice between on-campus instruction or remote instruction, at least for the time being. Phase into on-campus instruction. Natalia ISD's remote option will be internet-based, and we'll get some more explanation about that from Mrs. Robinson in just a few minutes.
Dr. Calavo, the sound is out. Danny, is it muted in some way?
It sounds like it's working for me. I'm hearing everything.
Okay.
Yep, you should be good.
Okay.
Before school starts, we'll be providing guidance for a safe return to campus with limited access to all visitors. We'll have our protocols in place and share that information with you. We are required under the Texas Education Code to enforce attendance requirements for public education. In other words, we will have the same attendance requirements for remote learners as we do for on-campus learners. You will have to log in every day. There will be instruction every day. There will be requirements for both on-campus and remote learners every day. Period. We'll follow guidance for any lab confirmed cases and for identification and mitigation during it. And we will have to provide that information. We'll give you a long list for sure before school starts. We'll have transportation service. However, there'll be certain things. We'll do assigned seats. We'll ask families to sit together. Masks are currently required on buses, and for as long as there's a rule from the governor. As we go through this, I appreciate your patience and understanding. Again, things could change. We get guidance at least twice a week, sometimes more often than that. Do we have questions I could answer before I move into anything else? None yet. Okay, so there's a lot of information, and I think some of the most important information comes about the instructional plan. So I'm going to ask Ms. Robinson to go ahead and go into that instructional plan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lori Robinson. I'm the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction for Natalia ISD. And before I share the plan created by our hardworking leadership team, I would like to thank you for your patience and understanding during these uncertain times, because it's been crazy. And just to reiterate, we have what Dr. Clavo said, we have scoured through many guidelines and attended numerous meetings and created several plans and then had to go back and revise those plans based on new guidance. And we've come up with some procedures and protocols that will keep our students and staff healthy, safe, and our students educated. We won't read through the entirety of the plan during this town hall, but the document is posted on our website, will be posted on our website, and it will be updated regularly based on new guidance that we receive. I've also dropped the link to this document into the chat box on the YouTube video. So if you wanted to look at that as we talk through it, I will also present my screen to that document so that we can walk through it in just a minute. I do want to let you know that when schools closed in March, we were tasked with continuing education in the most efficient and effective way with very short notice. In fact, Natalia ISD responded within a week of time to get this remote learning out, and then very shortly after that to ensure that digital learning was taking place within that. So that was a crisis response. And we turned the normal way of educating students into remote learning in such a short time. We also deployed those devices, digital devices, in such a short time, and we know there were hiccups along the way. And while we're still dealing with this ever-changing pandemic and the situation and nature of having to quarantine or not go onto campuses the way that we used to, we've had time to plan a more effective way to educate our students, whether choosing the on-campus decision or the at-home remote instructional model, whichever you choose. Tonight, you're going to hear the words asynchronous and synchronous as we discuss what remote learning will look like. I would like to define those words in a way that helped me remember what they meant, because before this quarantine and pandemic, we didn't really talk about that kind of or those two words in education a whole bunch. And I like to remember synchronous as like when I sync my phone to my car. It's all together. It's at the same time. So when students choose remote learning, synchronous activities would be them with the teacher and other students at the same time. And asynchronous would be working independently. For example, practicing math for 20 minutes or silent reading of your favorite book. So I just want to front load those two words into that. So when we refer to them, that's a little bit more of a understanding around those two words. So for the beginning of the school year, and I'm going to switch to present my screen so y'all can see what we're talking about within the plan and where we're at. So give me just a second. This is the plan, the plan that was shared in our in the YouTube, and then also will be linked on our website. Uh, this front matter is just important information in case you need to contact. I will say that right after the guiding principles that we've placed in there, there is a form, a Google form. So if we don't answer your questions tonight, we are not able to get to them, or you read it at a later time and you think I didn't have that question then, but now I do. If you click on this link in the form, it'll take you to just a very simple Google Doc that where you can type in your question, and then we'll get that answer and post it on our FAQ document. We're going to go over what transitioning into the school year will look like. For the beginning of the school year, the Texas Education Agency has allowed school districts to have a 4-week transition period for the return to campus. And at this time, Natalia ISD will follow the schedule as below. This is on page 4. The first week, August 24th through the 28th, and the second week, August 31st through September 4th, will be completely remote. We will use this time to train our students on the use of digital technology and programs, kind of like a digital orientation. And during that time, we will help students with logging into our new learning management system, which will be much friendlier than Google Classroom was in March through May, as well as all other programs that might be utilized. We will also provide learning activities and necessary assessments to begin the school year with a strong start. So during remote learning, it's not going to be completely synchronous where your students will have to be in a live stream lesson. There will be activities and assessments that we can provide that are asynchronous for our students. The third week of school, September 8th through September 11th, we will transition to about 50% of the students that have signed up for on-campus learning to the buildings. And whether or not that's actual 50%, we were discussing this morning, it could be a different amount per campus. Whatever the campus can hold realistically in order to teach all the procedures and processes to ensure safety and health on the campus. During that time, we'll practice those procedures and protocols that ensure a safe and healthy environment for all students. Those students who are still at home and learning during that 50% week will participate in synchronous and asynchronous learning activities and lessons. And this will allow students to participate in the new learning environment of live streamed lessons and activities, as well as practice safe and healthy procedures. The fourth week of school, September 14th through the 18th, we will transition to 100% of the students that have signed up for on campus learning to the buildings. During this time, we will continue to practice our safe and healthy protocols and get the hang of our remote learning processes with students and parents. The two options that we are providing, and I'm going to scroll through, and you've seen this before if you got a chance to look at the survey we sent out, the two options that we are providing for Natalia ISD students are either to participate in remote learning at home or on campus learning. And we know that this decision is personal and there are tons of things to consider. And please know that we will continue to provide learning opportunities aligned with our state standards, despite which option you make. And we will provide all Natalia ISD students with devices for learning, which will be discussed soon. And so be on the lookout for more information about a technology deployment. We also have we remember what it was like in March through May with some of our hotspots not working in certain locations. So we are looking at several different options, different carriers, and things like that to ensure that connectivity isn't as big of an issue as it was in March through May. So those two options, that's really the two options that the family has, is whether you want your kid to come on campus for learning or whether you want them to be remote at home, whatever that location is, and learning that way. So regarding transition between the two options, remote learning, and I'm going to come to this is on page 9, so I'm going to scroll down quite a bit first. um, when we think of what does it look like if I want my kids to come back to campus, or how are we going to transition if we need to transition? um, these are the two guidelines that we have. If a student begins the school year in remote instruction, they will be able to transition to on campus at the opening of the new term, which is the second 9 weeks. So, because we have to create protocols based on the numbers that we currently have, and an influx of students could change the way we have to run things or the way that it is that we have our procedures set. If the student begins with on campus instruction, they can switch to remote learning at any time due to COVID-19 concerns, but they must stay remote for the duration of the 9 week grading period. And because there's a possibility that the transition to remote instruction could be 100% of our students that are in remote instruction at any time during the school year, we encourage our students to follow the remote schedule as best as possible that we'll provide to them at the beginning of the school year in order to make those transitions seamless and have the least disruption of learning possible. We will be taking, like Dr. Calavo spoke about earlier, we will be taking attendance, and your students' attendance is required, whether they're on campus or in remote learning. It's a look different than March through May, where we assigned assignments and gave you due dates and they were due on a Friday. The student must engage in these learning activities daily in order for us to be able to count them present daily. So We want students, their attendance will be taken through logins into our learning management system, completion of activities by the assigned due dates. And that is how we will log daily attendance. If a student does not attend the virtual classroom and or complete those assignments by the due date communicated, it could result in it will result in an absence, and we will follow our legal and local policy regarding attendance like years prior. Schedules will be provided to your students prior to the start on August 24th. We're going to look at page 7 of this document now to go over some sample schedules. I'm going to say sample and example a million times because I don't want you to think this is exactly what your student schedule will look like. These are just samples of what a student's schedule could look like when whether they're on campus or whether they're remote. So serve as an example of what it could look like for your student daily. And attendance during synchronous times, remember that's when we're all together, live streaming, is very important for many reasons, not only attendance, but to keep learning alive for our kiddos and to ensure that we fill in any of those gaps that were created in March through August. And we appreciate your role as a parent and how vital that is to ensure that our students are following the schedules as much as possible um, while learning. All right, so if you choose to send your student to on-campus learning, these are let me show you these examples really quick. So if this is a normal on-campus schedule, and this is a remote schedule, there's going to be times where it's synchronous, where they're all going to be on a live stream. And then there could be times where they participate in activities that are pre-recorded or posted in our learning management system that they don't have to log in for or be live streamed for. And that goes for both junior high and high school. However, it's very important for them to log in daily at junior high. The older kids should be able to handle that. If you choose to send your students to on-campus learning, I just want to reassure you, we're going to follow the social distancing guidelines provided to us. And while in attendance on the campus, should the number of students exceed the acceptable socially distant capacity of the classroom, then we're going to provide a virtual hub, which is also in this document towards the bottom. Those virtual hubs, let me get to that really quick. Those virtual hubs are just essentially large rooms like the cafeteria, which the kids will be spaced out appropriately. And they will rotate in and out of that large room. And we will ensure that that our classrooms are not at over capacity. And because we had to close the schools for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year, we're going to be spending time at the beginning of the 2021 school year assessing each student's learning needs and filling in gaps. And during school closure in summer months, it's estimated that our students across our country will enter the school year a half to 1 year behind in reading and math. And we will begin working diligently to ensure that Natalia ISD students shine brighter than ever before. One way to counteract these gaps is to have your student read daily and practice math. And if you need ideas and resources, our community resource center is full of them, and there's a link on our website. And that's really all I have to share my piece. I'm going to turn this over to Carmen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carmen Maglabaz. I am the early childhood and elementary principal. I'm going to talk to you just for a few minutes about the difference in remote learning based on grade level. As you know, our pre-K and kinder babies, they just have very different needs than the older students do. And so 2nd through 12th is going to be using this plan just exactly as Ms. Robinson laid out. Pre-K, K1, we will still have some synchronous and asynchronous learning that happens. But we're going to have to do a little bit different for our youngest students than we do for the older kids. Pre-K, K, and 1 kiddos, we have tablets that we'll be issuing out to them, to each one, whether they're here on campus or they're at home. Okay. Chromebooks will be issued out to all students in 2nd through 12th. Pre-K1 is going to be using Seesaw with their teachers, where through 12th is going to be using Schoology, the learning management system that Miss Robinson just talked about. I do want to reiterate that this is going to be very different than what happened March through May. There were some good things that happened, and we really worked hard March through May to make everything happen for us, but we've had some time to do planning and things. And so this is going to look very, very different. We're just going to be using a lot of technology this year. Another bright spot, the district has purchased what are called swivel cameras, and the teacher wears a device, and these cameras actually track the teacher as they're going through the room. So the children will be able to see exactly, the ones who are at home and remote learning, they will be able to see exactly what's going on in the classroom. They'll be able to hear the teacher's direct instruction, just like they were sitting there with them, and be able to, see their friends that are sitting in class. So that is very exciting. Students who receive special education and 504 services we will be in touch with you individually. By your case managers will reach out to you so we can provide those services as well, whatever was decided in the IEP meetings. Also, we've got to get all those schedules worked out. If your child may receive speech or dyslexia services, we're going to be reaching out with you to make sure whether they're remote or they're online, they're still receiving the services that they need. I do want to say our pre-K and K kiddos, you will hear more from us as we get closer to school starting. We know that there's a lot of anxiety around taking your babies to school for the first time and leaving them. And I know you want those first day pictures and you want to hand them to someone. So we will be in touch with you about how that's going to happen. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit different than how we do it for 2nd through 12th grade. So be on the lookout for that information about mid-August. One of the things we also need to establish is that we are going to be asking all students to wear face masks. We realize that some places are saying you only have to do it from age 10 and up. I don't know how much time everybody spent with some of our youngest children in the district, but we exude a lot of liquids from our little bodies. So we are going to go ahead and ask everybody to do masks. So if you haven't already started talking with your kiddos and practicing with them, wearing masks and things, please start that now. We've got a good month to get in the routine of doing that. All right. Okay. So I am now going to pass the torch over to Dr. Camacho, who's going to talk to you guys a little bit more about technology.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Camacho. I'm going to talk about technology deployment. Ms. Robinson, if you can, will you go ahead and put that picture up of the earpods? So as I talk, the parents will have the opportunity to just concentrate or look at that picture while I'm going over everything. But Chromebooks and or hotspots will be checked out at each campus in the spring when we did our rollouts of all the information and all the packets. It will basically be the same thing. We will have a drive up and check out to all parents. And if there's any other information that needs to be given at the time, we'll also have that in the packets. The pickup will be August 19th and August 20th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. on those 2 days. For the junior high, it'll be right in front of the old double doors, and elementary will be on the side, and high school through the driveway. Devices will be checked out to families, and a Chromebook or electronic device will be checked out to each student. The student will not have to share devices. So if you have 3 children that attend school, and even if they're on the same campus or different campuses, each student will be checked out a device. So that because of the schedules, because of trying to go through the normal routine of a day, it's not easy. You can't be sharing laptops or anything or Chromebooks. So each student will be handed out. A technology contract will need to be filled out by the parent and student. It's very important because we need to make sure we're taking care of that equipment. The Chromebook will be checked out to the student for the entire school year. This strategy will reduce the chances of cross-contamination. Instead of a set being in a classroom and hands touching them, your child will have that Chromebook with them at all times. The Chromebook needs to be used by the student to whom it's checked out to. So even at home, if you have 2 or 3 kids, they each need to use the Chromebook that is checked out to them, just for purposes also of any kind of damages that may occur.
Dr. Camacho, they're asking that you
Yes,
talk a
ma'am.
little louder.
A little louder, okay. Do you need me to maybe start over? Or
No, just talk louder. I think
Okay.
just talk louder.
Have another flashback here. The student will need the Chromebook every day at school or during the virtual classes. So you make sure that it's always charged and that it's ready to go. An inexpensive pair of earbuds with a microphone will be required for the class and for verbal participation. And Ms. Robinson is putting a picture up on the screen. We're not asking for Raycons, we're not asking for Beats or anything like that. A simple little pair of earpods that will connect with the Chromebook, and also so it has a little microphone on it. So if your child's asking a question to the teacher, they're able to respond. Also, some main points. Natalia ISD electronic devices need to be used at all times. Non-Natalia ISD electronic devices will not be supported by the technology department. Natalia ISD will monitor the use of all our devices when the students log on to the computers. They do go through our servers, and so we do monitor. And then if you do have technology issues, the email of NISD help desk at nataliaisd.net. That's the email you'll use to get help with any kind of technological problems. And that is all for the deployment.
Thank you.
Hewitt's next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Moreno Hewitt, and I'm proud to serve as principal of Natalia High School. My part is very short, just to speak a little bit specifically about secondary high school credit. Even more specifically, students are required to have 90% attendance. This is a state rule in order to receive credit for the course, in addition to passing the course. So that's part of the graduation requirements. And so I know there's some questions that have come through on the chat box, and maybe this will help just a little bit. We'll have time for questions. What we're envisioning is that students would be logging in, they would be following their schedule as if they were at school, talking specifically about remote learners. They would be following their schedule so that this was like what Ms. Robinson mentioned about synchronous learning. That would be a time where the student might be, if you guys have chosen as a family for your child to study from home, then when first period begins, then your child, your son or daughter would actually be logging in to his first period link that the first period teacher would be making available, so that he or she can participate at the same time, simultaneously, if you will, or in a synchronous environment. And so they would actually be taking part remotely from during that time. And then there may be a time where it would shift into more of an asynchronous type setting if the student is working independently. For example, the teacher has provided his or her lecture or direct instruction, and then your son or daughter would then have an opportunity to work independently. And so, yes, what we're seeing is where your son or daughter would be logging in to receive attendance credit for that day. I know there's some questions that have come through about connectivity and so forth. So we do have plans in place to be making sure that we can see the times that your son or daughter has actually logged into the learning management system, times that they've had interaction with their teacher, so that we maybe can reconcile attendance and understand that there might have been an issue. But at the same time, the effort is that your child would be participating in class just in a remote manner. And that is, again, to meet that requirement from our state, and so that your student is having the benefit of participating in instruction, it would just be from home, and we're still be meeting that 90% requirement. So that's my section. I'm not quite sure who's next. Let's see.
Ms. Blaine Rostro.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Leticia Buenrostro. I'm the Executive Director of Academic Services here at Natalia ISD. And the programs that I'll be briefly reviewing are the 504 Special Education, ESL, Dyslexia, and GT. So from where we've been, as of March all the way to May, we've been providing services to our students in the special populations. Our staff has worked with teletherapy online. We've had teachers work with students online for the dyslexia staff, the speech therapists. They've been working with students directly, live and online with students. We support the students based on how the plan was projected, whether it's an ARD or a 504 meeting. Those meetings are going to continue to be held. We'll continue to provide the accommodations and modifications throughout the school day, whether it's in person or virtual. We will continue to meet with parents, and most meetings have been held virtually. A lot of parents have participated because they don't have to take time off of work. So we'll continue with the virtual meetings as well as in person. I know one of the chat questions was for evaluations. We're continuing to provide evaluations and testing. That will continue. We were not waiting, but TEA provided guidelines on evaluations and assessments for the incoming school year. We will continue to social distance and wear protective equipment will be used as appropriate. I know several questions have come through the chat. Again, we're going to provide the services that the parent and the campus have chosen for the student. So we may have to revisit some of those plans depending on what programming your child is going to be doing, whether it's in person or whether it's going to be a virtual. So we'll continue to have those meetings. We met with TEA this evening, and they're providing guidelines, and that should be coming out next week as well. So as we get it, we'll provide the information to you, our parents. That's what I have for you, and we'll continue to answer questions. Thank you.
All right, we're moving down to Coach.
Hey, good evening. I'm Milian Martinez. I serve as the athletic director here at Natalia. I just have a few things to say. Number one, we will allow all student athletes who wish to participate, whether they are in person or remote learning. The only thing we will not do is provide transportation for those who choose to stay at home and learn. You'll have to find a transportation to get to practice after school. But we will allow any student athlete who chooses to participate in athletics and extracurricular activities.
Okay, Mr. Mendez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sergio Mendez. I'm one of the directors here, Natalia, and I can give you some dates that we got going on. We actually got a new date 2 hours ago, and they moved our region contest from October to November the 14th. So we are supposed to be going to contest November the 14th. That's if there is a UIL contest. I know I've got a lot of questions from parents asking how we're going to do it and all that. I'll get more into that when we start having our booster meetings and as far as the social distancing and all that kind of stuff. I do know, like I told some of these parents, there are some schools that are opting out of UIL region marching competitions. So as of right now, we're still scheduled to try to get that going. But we'll figure it out as it goes, because like I said, things change, by the hour. I know that the area marching contest, if there is one, is going to be scheduled for December, but there is no date set right now for the area marching contest. As far as the actual marching show, We normally try to have our show done before school starts for the most part. Our start date for actual marching is September the 7th, so there's no way we can get that done this year. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm sure we can figure it out. We'll figure it out some way. And like I said, we'll just take it day by day, or in this case, hour by hour, and we'll see what we get done. But I will be sending out more information on Remind. Please make sure you're on our Remind, both junior high and high school. As far as junior high, I know we have a pretty big beginning band class coming up. I think we're up to 70. And obviously the band hall can't hold that many kids, and we cannot share instruments. So that's something that we're going to be working on also to try to figure out how we're going to get that done. I know there's a lot of questions as far as traveling and all that kind of stuff. And I did reach out to our principal, and we're looking at going a certain route on that, but we'll get more on that to you guys as like I said, as we get closer to the starting dates. I know there's a lot of questions, so I'm kind of just going to end it there. And if you have questions, I can try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with the questions that I've written down, and some of them I'll answer and some of them I'll ask someone else to help me with, and then I'll try to see which questions I've missed. The first question I wrote down was that I got from the chat, what about masks being worn in the classroom? I think that was answered. We do have a requirement for masks to be worn in the classroom according to the state of Texas, and we are going to require, and that's for 10 and up, but we're going to require it for all of our students at this time. Will remote learners' attendance take into account internet issues? We're going to do our best to resolve all those issues the first 2 weeks of school, but we do have to have, under state rule, contact with students. Students have to have documentation that they completed work every single day, or completed the activity, or participated in instruction every single day. That's in order for us to count you present, and we have to have people present in order to draw funds from the state of Texas. That's a funding rule. Transportation for football and extracurricular, we will provide transportation to the events, and we'll use we'll spread out some, but we haven't yet decided. I think there's some discussion still going on as to who all's going to each of the away games. So we'll have to address that by the districts and what have you. I think there's still some discussion about that. How do you sign up for remote learning? It is actually in your packet. Some people are already registered online. It's in the online packet. And actually, you can change your mind up to 8/28, whichever one you choose. We'll let you change your mind up to August the 28th, Friday, August the 28th. But you actually choose that when you register for school. Then there was a question about hybrid that we were explaining, and where does that go? And I think that hybrid word has been used in more than one manner now. We are only doing either remote or on campus. It's possible on campus that we'll use the virtual hubs Ms. Robinson talked about. The hybrid, where some students are at school and some students are at home and school is going on and you don't go to school every day, we don't have that in our plan, and it's now only allowed in 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we have not used that in our plan at this time. Laptops handed out again, that was addressed. Every student will get one of those. Where's the link for this current document, the instructional document? Can that be emailed? And yes, we can email the link to all staff, all parents tomorrow through Blackboard.
Dr. Clevel, we'll also place it under our COVID-19 section of our website, and it'll be a spotlight in our homepage as well. And so then that way there's several places where you can find it. It'll go to the same document, and we have both English and Spanish translations. And like Dr. Clevel said, we can email.
There was a question about both parents work, synchronous, not possible. The requirement is that we have proof that every child participated in instruction each day. So if you're participating at night, that's considered asynchronous participation, but it has to be logged into the learning management system so that we have documentation that that happened. I can't answer this really. What will lessons for first-time mariachi students look like? I don't know. That will come from Mr. Mendez. Mr. Mendez, have you have a thought about that? I also want to make a comment as he's thinking about that. If he is, students are allowed to participate in remote students are allowed to participate in extracurricular activities. However, practice for extracurricular activities is not remote. To play football, you would have to come to practice after school. You have to participate in actual practice. So the remote learner can learn at home, but the participation is at school. Is that correct, Coach Martinez? Yes, the participation.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mendez, are you still on? I don't see Mr. Mendez right now. But the participation, the practice actually happens at school. In addition, some of our CTE classes, our career and technology classes, they're going to have some on-campus requirements as well. It's difficult for if you're getting high school credit in, for example, welding, for you not to at some point do a weld in front of the instructor. So there can be on-campus requirements for some of the classes, even for remote learners. So I wanted to explain that. And that is under TEA rule. How do we enroll a new student who may need special ed? We are going to have a new student in, Ms. Bain-Rostro, when is new student registration?
It'll be August 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Yes, I'm sorry, August, I'm sorry, 4th, 5th, and 6th. August 4th, 5th, and 6th, we'll do in person. We'll be sending out more information on registration because there's a sign up that you'll have. You'll have to sign into a time slot, and then we'll give you more information at that time. But the student would have to be registered in order for evaluation to commence, unless they're a lot younger. Then we can discuss that.
And Ms. Bain-Rostro, there is a question about students. Can students be tested for special education virtually? And that is in person, correct?
Right. A majority of the assessments or the evaluations have to be in person. A lot of it we can get with parent information. We can send out a questionnaire, but a lot of the evaluations have to be in person. And so right now we're working on PPEs, which is protective gear or protection and plexiglass and things like that. We're looking into that already to do face-to-face evaluations. And by far, I mean, you have to know that safety is our number one priority.
Another question is, will students be able to call their campus over the phone to confirm their attempt at attending a class virtually during an internet connection issue for a scheduled synchronous lesson? We'll work that out, but certainly you'll be able to contact the teacher during the conference period. We'll work through that because a communication by phone can suffice if work is done, and we can document that work was done. Mr. Mendez, I see your name again. Are you on? I had another question. High school will high school students have to log into each class each day? And that answer is yes. You have to address each class each day to meet the 90% rule.
That goes for junior high students also for each period.
By period, that's correct. Thank you, Dr. Camacho. That it's by period. So we have to have documentation that you did. If you log into English, but you don't log into math, that's an absence for math. And here's another question. For on-campus students, will students be rotating classrooms for their different courses? And my response right now is it depends. It depends on the age group. We are working out some ways to make it to follow some cleanliness protocols to keep them as safe as possible. At the elementary level, they do stay in a cohort or a group, and they can move as a group, or the teacher can move. But at high school, they do change classes. Here's another question, Leticia. Miss Buenrostro, will the evaluation for special education, I just missed it, just a second. Will the evaluation for special education need to be done by appointment since they are in person?
Yes, we can schedule a time. It's always at the convenience of the parent. We try to do it before or after school. And we do have evaluation staff that are readily to begin the process. Yes. So we would have to schedule it.
Dr. Calavo, can I address the kinder? There's a couple of kinder parents who are asking about synchronous. So we know that the younger the students are, the more difficult it is to have them follow a schedule. The older they are, it's a little bit easier to hold them accountable. So at the kinder or at the younger grade levels, there will be more asynchronous type activities that they can complete. So the older the students get, the more synchronous it will be. But we will provide some synchronous activities where students and teachers interact and they learn new content. I want to make the statement of from March to May, we had almost taught all the content for the school year when the school year closed down, right? So, but we're starting a brand new school year with brand new content for our kiddos. So as much live stream lesson from our certified teachers as possible is what we would prefer. So, but we know there are cases where parents work or their schedules may not mesh. So please know that it's an open contact with the campus itself and how we can get and make sure that the learning continues during that time.
Here's a question. If a parent deems the classroom setting unsafe or detrimental to their child's health, how would the sports setting differ in the level of contact and risk? That's a decision the parent makes. There will be protocols in place for sports and protocols in place for the other extracurricular activities, but certainly it's a parent's choice to participate for the student to participate or not. Mr. Martinez has just worked up protocols for football right now, so those will go out to you and you can make that decision based on the protocols. Do you want to add to that, Coach Martinez?
No, ma'am. Just like you said, parents will have the discretion. We're going to act in the best practices, and we're going to do everything we can to keep kids safe. But we understand that if some parents feel like it's unsafe for them and that's not something they want their kid to participate in, we understand and respect that as well. So we'll leave it up to each parent.
Will there be band camp?
We're looking at we're looking at starting in August, also the first week of August, but I've got to figure out the schedule. We were supposed to start next week, but since it got pushed back, we've got 20 hours that we can work in. So that gives us plenty of time to work on the camp. We're going to start with rookies first. It's a small group, probably about 20 kids, and then we'll probably do sectional work after that until we get a good feel of who's going to be participating this year and who's not.
When will students get schedules? That's probably depends on the campus. Each principal can address that.
As I understand it, and you guys might correct me if I'm wrong. As I understand it, let me put my video on. The schedules are in the portal now. And so you guys might correct me, but I believe that because I can see it on my end, and I believe it is open. So everything's been rolled up to this year for high school.
And when we do, I'm going to throw in there, and when we do device deployment on August 19th and August 20th, we'll include important information like that within that packet that you come to pick up.
If students log in every day but are unable to attend synchronous lessons due to parent schedules, will they still be counted present for the day, or will it be an absence? Again, if you log in every day and you complete what you're supposed to do, or then you would be counted present for that day. And if you are a secondary student, you would need to log into every single class and do work. I want to stress that students who are remote and participating in extracurricular activities have the same rules as students who are on campus. If you do not log in on the day of an event, you're not eligible to participate because you're absent. So be sure that you do take care of that, because we will check attendance on that. You're under the same no pass, no play. If you've not completed your assignment, or you don't pass a class, you don't do your work and you don't pass a class, then you fall under no pass, no play. All students, whether they're remote or not, have the same attendance and grading requirements. A remote student who doesn't get online for 2 weeks and they log in on a Friday and get their work done, that will help their grade. However, they will have 9 absences, which will not help their ability to pass. So it's very important to log in and get your work done.
Dr. Clavo, can I go back to the last question? All the junior high schedules are not completed at this time, so they will be passed out during registration.
Can I address one question? As of right now, no protective face mask or shields will be installed on kids' helmets. We will allow kids, if they choose to have one for their helmet, they may, but that's not something we're going to do on our end.
The process, if a student or a teacher or a student tests positive for COVID, it depends on where they were and when it happened. And we'll follow the protocols established, and we'll get those protocols out to you. We have a long list of protocols that we have to follow. So when we do our mitigation plan that has to be sent to y'all, then that will be included in there. We are establishing ways to, here's the next question, sorry. What about bus transportation? I think I addressed that. Mask on the bus, families sit together, we'll spread out. And the windows will be open as much as possible, and they'll have assigned seats, and then the buses are cleaned after each trip. Let's see if there's another one on here. I don't know about FFA and ag. We'll have to find that out for you. Will parents be able to drive their children to games instead of bus?
We're still working on a plan for travel at this point. And that's something that we're working with our plan, and we're talking to other districts on what they're doing. But it's definitely on the table for sure.
I don't see any more questions. Did I miss one? 2?
I think earlier a parent was asking the dates of the technology rollout. That's August 19th and August 20th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the technology rollout.
Ms. Maglavas, did you see one?
Ms. Vanderslice is asking what type of physical changes to the classroom will be in place for elementary and junior high to ensure social distancing, and will the school provide face masks for those students that don't have one?
The classrooms will be spaced out. We're looking at shields. We've not made that decision yet. We will be cleaning, and it was like about a 4-step question. What was the rest of it? Because I can't read it. What was the rest
About
of it?
face masks.
Oh, face masks. We have just gotten a shipment from the state, and we don't know exactly what's in there, but I think there's a couple of face masks for each student. We will provide face masks if we have to, but we are asking people to provide their own, because everybody now seems to have a preference for the kind they like and the kind they're comfortable in and what feels good. Our teachers now will have on, they'll be provided with, they'll have to wear face masks as well, and then we do have shields for their faces.
We still have somebody asking about the mariachi questions. If Sergio can answer that, please.
Mr. Mendez, the mariachi question?
Yeah, sure. That all depends on, the number of students that sign up for the class. Normally when we start this school year, we go off of what they already know. Sometimes it's a brand new group and we have to start, fresh from the beginning, and it'll be basically like a private lesson type thing, as we teach them chord by chord. And then as the year goes on, well, then again, things will probably change, so we'll deal with it then. But as far as instrumentation, all that, it all depends on who signs up for the class. And obviously, we can't share instruments anymore, so we're gonna have to find a way to purchase other instruments if the groups are as big as they've normally been. But as far as actual instruction, chances are it'll probably just start, like a one-on-one private lesson type thing, but as a class.
When would be the deadline to withdraw a student to proceed with homeschooling? There's never a deadline to withdraw a student. We do have to have documentation about where the student is going, and we hope we can work everything out so everyone stays. That's certainly our goal, is to keep all our students and to continue to maintain a connection to Natalia ISD and it's Natalia ISD provides lots of connections to the community and to the students with each other, and we hope we can work through that as we work through some of the remote learning experiences.
Dr. Calava, while you're reading the next question, I do want to reiterate, we kind of covered it in a quick manner, but we do have a 4-week transition period for those who joined after the first part of this video. And so the first 2 weeks are completely remote for all of our students. And then we'll transition the students who are choosing on-campus learning on the 3rd week and the 4th week. We'll transition those students onto campus.
Here was the question again. If a student is doing remote learning and has a doctor's appointment during the live classroom time, how do you submit the doctor's note for missing? Actually, what you do is you make sure that the student logs on and gets work done that day and has asynchronous attendance, and they'll be fine. But you can also submit the doctor's note. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. It's a good question.
Well, the doctor's office will fax a note to the campus.
Good idea. And let's see, there was one more about the band hall understand you will do as much social distancing in classrooms, but will the band hall already over capacity? What will be the plan if there are a big number of people in person?
I don't know if Mr. Meadows wants to address it. We could probably both tag team, but we are creating a kind of a limit on each class size on capacity for based on the square footage of that room. And so we are putting plans in place to really kind of separate the students into different areas of the building when they're unable to rehearse outside. Mr. Mendes might want to speak to it too.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be outside. We're probably going to be outside the majority of the time. In the case of bad weather or whatever, I know I talked to Dr. Hewitt about it, and we kind of said, there's 3 of us now in the morning, so it'll be Mr. Acevedo and Mr. Ogado. So we'll be able to split up the group into 3 different groups. We will fill up the band hall as much as we can, and then we'll send the other 2 groups, whether it be the library or the stage or some holding room, just to get them through that day. But as far as being in the band hall, chances are we won't be in the band hall at the same time together anytime soon, because we're pretty packed in there already as it is. So yeah.
I just want to say that I really appreciate all the people who joined us and all your questions, because it gives us more things to think about. That's for sure. Our hope and goal is to provide a wonderful experience, a quality educational experience for everyone, whether they choose to be at school or remote. And I hope that if you have questions or concerns that you let us know, because sometimes we think things are going great and something's going wrong that we didn't know about. So please talk to us, let us know. We're going to work through as much as we can with the hotspots. We have 3 different brands of hotspots we're going to be trying. we want this all to go well for your students. It's important to us that we provide, that's what we do, is work with education, and that's what we want to do, is provide a quality program for everyone. And most of all, we want them to enjoy the learning process. And when May comes around and we're doing state assessments, which we're still going to do, that it goes well for all of us and for our students. I also hope that we get a little bit of feedback on this type of presentation to you all, to get information out. If it was a good way to get information out, then we'll try it again sometime. And but we don't want to waste your time. We want it to be good for each of you. So I actually thank y'all for attending. We're going to have our Spanish version in about 15 minutes. I have anyone that wants to add to the end?
I know someone was asking about, or several people were asking about schedule changes. How are y'all going to handle those?
Good question.
We'll handle schedule changes at the junior high as we normally do. There's a time window if a student wants to change classes that we do the first week or two, and then after that, we don't do changes for the semester.
Would that be?
And I'll say, in the chat box, I told them just to email the campus counselors to address that.
Anybody want to add to the end of our meeting?
We appreciate you guys, your parents, and we know this is a very stressful time, and we're definitely a team in getting this accomplished.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for participating and giving us questions. I appreciate that. Okay, if we can turn off the sound to the
bye, everybody.
Bye-bye to the YouTube until 6:45.
Yes, I'll mute the sound. Viewers and whoever's involved in the next meeting, y'all could just hang out in here, and I'm gonna unmute it right at 6:45.
Hey, it's 6:45. Hey, we're up.
Okay, we're unmuted.
It's showtime.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our meeting tonight. I'm sorry we had to cancel the earlier meeting, but we had internet problems.
Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por venir. Lo siento que no tuvimos la chance de juntarse hoy en la tarde. Es que tuvimos problema con el internet.
My name is Lana Calavo, and I'm the interim superintendent from Natalia ISD, and we're going to be presenting information tonight about the fall and about instruction and how we're going to manage the school when it begins this year.
La superintendente dice que ahora el propósito de nuestra junta es para describir cómo vamos a ofrecer clases ahora en este año escolar.
I've also asked several other staff members and administrators to help me tonight. They'll be talking about programming and the campuses and extracurricular activities.
También tenemos a otros administradores de nuestro distrito y ellos van a describir su parte en esta junta.
You may submit questions in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those at the end of our presentation today.
Ustedes pueden entregar preguntas aquí en la caja de chat. Si tienen preguntas y vamos a ofrecer nuestras respuestas cuando podemos tener tiempo.
Now I'm going to present some general information that applies to all students for the fall semester in school year 2022.
Vamos a presentar información en general por nuestro año escolar.
School will begin for all students on August 24th. To begin with, all students will have remote instruction so that we can make sure everything's working with the electronic devices and the internet in the event that we're required to close schools later in the year.
Las clases van a empezar el 24 de agosto y también vamos a tener tiempo en estas primeras 2 semanas para conseguir y tratar de prepararse para todas las clases en al comienzo de la escuela.
We'll begin with 2 weeks of remote instruction, and then for those students who wish to return to campus, we'll begin returning those students starting those students back on campus the 3rd and 4th week of school. And then the 5th week of school, everyone who wants to be at school will be at school.
Ustedes pueden elegir si quieren sus hijos estudiar en casa o en la escuela, pero las primeras 2 semanas, todo el mundo, todos los estudiantes van a estar estudiando en casa y luego de la tercera semana, 50% de los estudiantes que escogieron de venir a las clases en el plantel, en la escuela, van a venir y luego el cuarto semana, todo lo demás van a venir a las clases ahí en la escuela. Otra vez para ellos que escogieron el modo de venir a la escuela en lugar de estudiar en casa.
Natalia ISD will be providing remote internet-based instruction or on-campus instruction, and you'll need to choose that before the start of the school year. That's in your packet, your registration packet.
Thank you. El distrito escolar van a ofrecer 2 opciones para ustedes cuando hacen la matriculación o registración para sus estudiantes. Van a escoger la opción de estudiar en casa o estudiar en la escuela.
Before school starts, we'll provide guidance for a safe return to campus with limited access for all visitors.
También vamos a ofrecer una guía para que regresen todos los estudiantes en una manera segura y también acceso al plantel va a ser limitado para los visitantes.
Students who work remotely will have the same attendance and grading requirements as students who are on campus.
Los estudiantes que estudian en casa o los estudiantes que estudian en la escuela van a tener los mismos requisitos o mismas reglas para la asistencia y también las calificaciones.
As a general rule, switching from remote to on-campus will be allowed at the beginning of a 9-week period.
Si ustedes cambian la mente y quieren estudiar en casa o al revés, estudiar en la escuela, la regla es que pueden escoger esa opción cada 9 semanas o cada vez que cambiamos y hacemos un reporte de calificaciones. Ustedes pueden escoger o cambiar la opción cada 9 semanas.
We're implementing cleaning procedures to reduce the chances of spreading illnesses and will follow guidance for lab-confirmed cases of COVID and other infectious diseases.
Vamos a seguir las reglas que nuestro estado nos ha dado para la limpieza y también prevenir para que ¿cómo decir? Que no, Norma, help me, the spread of the virus.
Orleti.
Que los estudiantes no pasan el COVID a los otros estudiantes.
Sí, el virus.
El virus.
Para que las infecciones no se pasen por persona por persona.
Gracias.
Staff will follow the required procedures for students who are ill and will follow required protocols for self-screening.
También los empleados van a tener reglas para que ellos sí mismos tienen que decir que ellos están sanos y que no están enfermos. Tienen que testigar cada día de eso.
We'll encourage cleanliness with hand sanitizers and hand washings and follow the most recent guidance for social distancing and face masks.
También tenemos reglas de la limpieza y también como jabón para estar limpiando las manos. Tenemos guía para los estudiantes que no se acercan y también tienen que usar máscaras. Todos los estudiantes y todos los empleados tienen que usar máscaras cada día en la escuela.
Transportation services will be provided for eligible students. Masks are currently required on the bus, seats will be assigned, and families will sit together.
Por los servicios de transportación en el autobús, sí vamos a tener eso para los estudiantes que están elegibles. Máscaras tienen que estar usados en el autobús. También los asientos van a ser asignados y también estudiantes que están en la misma familia pueden sentarse juntos.
Now, I want you to know that I appreciate your patience and understanding. The guidance and requirements change often. We hear from the state 2 or 3 times a week, and then it changes our plan. So what we're presenting tonight is what we know today. Things could change in the next month before school starts, and we'll keep you as updated as we can.
Quiere decir darle gracias a ustedes por su paciencia. Hemos tenido muchas juntas, reuniones como líderes en nuestro distrito escolar y casi cada semana o cada día cambian las reglas y tenemos que queremos darle la oportunidad de oír esta información y otra vez gracias por su paciencia en este tiempo.
And now I want to introduce our Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction, Lori Robertson, and she'll present with help our plan for remote and on-campus instruction.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Robinson. I am the Executive Director for Curriculum and Instruction.
La señora Robinson es la directora de currículo en el distrito escolar y ella va a presentar más información en detalle de nuestro plan para la instrucción para nuestros estudiantes.
I would like to thank you for your patience during these uncertain times, and our leadership team has worked very hard and scoured through many guidelines to put this plan together.
También quiere darle las gracias a ustedes por su paciencia y también nomás quiere ofrecer la información de nuestra que hemos repasado muchos planes y muchas reglas que han venido del Estado para juntarse a este plan y presentarle a ustedes esta noche.
We will not read through the entire plan during this town hall, but the document is posted on our website and will be updated regularly as plans progress. And I've also linked the document in the chat box on YouTube.
No, la directora no va a presentar toda la información, no va a leer todo el plan en detalle, pero está dando el plan por presentación aquí y también va a dar en la red para que ustedes pueden ir y ver el plan por sí mismo.
When schools closed in March, we were tasked with continuing education in the most efficient and effective way in a very short notice, and this was a crisis response.
En marzo, cuando tuvimos que cerrar las clases, ese era un tiempo mucho diferente. Era crisis, era un tiempo que tuvimos que cambiar el modo de la instrucción rápidamente. Y esta vez es diferente que tuvimos en este tiempo en marzo.
Natalia ISD staff turned our normal way of educating students into remote learning in a week's time, and we had digital learning deployed shortly after that.
Después de una semana es casi cambiamos todo el modo de dar la instrucción y también en esa semana tuvimos que dar instrucciones a ustedes y también compartir todos los computadoras electrónicos para que tenían acceso sus hijos en casa.
While we're still dealing with the ever-changing nature of this pandemic, we've had time to plan a more effective way to educate our students, whether choosing on-campus or at-home instructional model.
En este tiempo tuvimos la oportunidad de hacer el plan más efectivo y queremos darle este plan a ustedes para que tengan una educación más efectiva y con estrategias efectivas para sus estudiantes.
You will hear the words synchronous and asynchronous today as we discuss what remote learning will look like. I would like to define those words in a way that helps me remember what they mean.
En esta noche ustedes van a oír palabras y you know what, I'm going to need help with this, Miss Letty or Miss Norma. Synchronous or asynchronous, esas palabras van a oír y también va a decir la definición de esas palabras. Son dos modos de estudiar en casa.
So synchronous means that we're together at the same time, like syncing your phone to your car.
Okay, do you want me to go?
Yes, please.
Okay. Cuando están hablando de sincronosías, es el mismo tiempo que la maestra está dando el tarea y el estudiante también está escuchando en la casa. El ejemplo es cuando estás usando el teléfono en el carro, es el mismo tiempo. So, ese es el ejemplo de sincronosías.
Asynchronous refers to working independently and on your own, like reading a book for 20 minutes or a book independently or working on math for 20 minutes.
So, asincrónicas es cuando el maestro está diciendo o está dando el tarea y luego el estudiante lo hace más al rato. So, a veces el maestro está, let me see, el aprendizaje que ocurre independiente los estudiantes. So, a veces el maestro está dando la tarea y el estudiante está haciendo independiente en la noche o más, no en el mismo tiempo.
I'm going to present the plan right now. Give me a minute. For the beginning of the school year, the Texas Education Agency has allowed districts to have a 4-week transition period for the return to campus. At this time, Natalia ISD will follow the schedules below as seen on page 4.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Para el comienzo del año escolar, la Agencia de Educación de Texas promete que el distrito a un plan de transición de 4 semanas para el regreso al campo. En este momento, Natalia seguirá los horarios a continuación, como se ve en la página aquí.
For the first and second week of school, August 24th through September 4th, we will be completely remote.
Okay, la primera y segunda semana de clase del 24 de agosto al 4 de septiembre estaremos completamente remoto. Solo los estudiantes van a estar en la casa.
We will use this time to train our students on the use of digital technology and programs.
En este tiempo para capacitar a nuestros estudiantes sobre el uso de tecnología y programas digitales.
During this time, we will help our students logging into our new learning management system, Schoology, as well as other programs that might be utilized.
Durante este tiempo ayudamos a los estudiantes en iniciar sesiones en nuestro nuevo sistema del aprendizaje que se llama Schoology, así como en todos los programas que pueden utilizar.
The third week of school, September 8th through September 11th, we will transition to about 50% of the students that have signed up for on-campus learning to the buildings.
So en la tercera semana de clase, el 8 al 11 de septiembre, haremos la transición del, 50%. 50% de los estudiantes que han escrito para el aprendizaje en el campo a los individuos.
During this time, we will practice procedures and protocols, which Dr. Calavo mentioned earlier, that ensure a safe and healthy environment for all students.
Durante este tiempo, participamos procedimientos y protocolos que garantizan un ambiente seguro y saludable para todos los estudiantes.
The students who are still at home learning will participate in synchronous and asynchronous learning activities and lessons.
Los estudiantes que todavía están aprendiendo en casa participan en actividades y lesiones de aprendizaje sincrónico y asíncrono.
This will allow for our students to participate in the new learning environment of live-streamed lessons and activities, as well as practice safe and healthy procedures.
Esto permite a los estudiantes participar en el nuevo entorno de aprendizaje de las lecciones y actividades transmitidas en vivo, así como practicar producimos seguros y saludables.
The fourth week of school, September 14th through September 18th, we will transition to 100% of the students that have signed up for on-campus learning to the buildings.
La 4 semanas de clase del 14
al 18.
14 al 18 de septiembre haremos la transición al 100% de los estudiantes que se han inscrito para el aprendizaje en el campo a los científicos.
We will continue to practice our safe and healthy protocols and get the hang of our remote learning processes with students and parents.
Durante este tiempo continuamos practicando nuestros protocolos seguros y saludables y entendemos nuestros procesos de aprendizaje remoto con estudiantes y padres.
Our families have two options that we are providing for students learning: participating in remote learning at home or on-campus learning.
Hay dos opciones que brindamos nuestros estudiantes. Pueden participar el aprendizaje remoto o en el hogar en el campo.
We know this decision is personal and there are tons of things to consider.
Sabemos que esa decisión es personal y hay toneladas de cosas a considerar.
Please know that we will continue to provide learning opportunities aligned with our state standards, despite which option you make.
Tengan pesar de las opciones que elija. Proporcionamos a todos los estudiantes de Natalia dispositivo para el aprendizaje que se discutirán pronto.
We will provide Natalia ISD students with devices for learning, which will be discussed soon.
Vamos a dar tecnología a los estudiantes que vamos a hablar en un ratito.
Regarding transition between remote learning and on-campus learning, students will be allowed to transition the models of learning using the following guidelines.
Con respecto a las transiciones entre el aprendizaje remoto y el aprendizaje en el campo, consulto I'm going on to the next one. So, el página 9 que estamos viendo ahorita, a los estudiantes se le permitan hacer la transición entre los modelos de aprendizaje utilizando los siguientes pautas.
If a student begins the school year in remote instruction, they will be able to transition on-campus to on-campus instruction at the opening of the new term, the second 9 weeks.
Si un estudiante comienza en el año escolar en instrucciones remotas, podrá hacer la transición a instrucción campus en el inicio del nuevo periodo, las segundas 9 semanas.
If a student begins on-campus instruction, they can switch to remote learning at any time due to COVID-19 concerns, but must then stay remote for the duration of the 9-week period.
Si un estudiante comienza con instrucciones en el campo, puede cambiar al aprendizaje remoto en cualquier momento debido a preocupación de COVID-19, pero luego debe permanecer alejado durante el periodo de calificaciones de 9 semanas.
There could be the possibility to transition to remote instruction for 100% of the students at any time during the school year. Students should follow the remote schedule provided to ensure the least disruption of learning possible.
Podría existir la posibilidad de pasar a las instrucciones remotas para el 100% de los estudiantes en cualquier momento durante el año escolar. Los estudiantes deben seguir el horario remoto proporcionado para garantizar la menor interrupciones posible del aprendizaje.
Natalia ISD is required to take daily attendance to ensure all students are engaged in learning activities.
¿Se recuerdan que Natalia ISD toma asistencia diaria para garantizar que todos los estudiantes participan en actividades de aprendizaje?
During remote instruction, students will be required to log in to our learning management system, join live stream lessons, and complete activities by the assigned due date.
Durante las instrucciones remotas, los estudiantes deberán iniciar sesión en nuestro sistema de gestión de aprendizaje, unirse a las clases de transmisión en vivo y completar las actividades en la fecha de vencimiento asignado.
If a student does not attend the virtual classroom and or complete assignments by the due date communicated, it will result in an absence, and we will follow the legal and local policy regarding attendance like years prior.
Utilizaremos estos métodos para registrar la asistencia diaria. Si un estudiante no asiste el virtual y no completa las tareas antes de la fecha de vencimiento comunicado, podría resultar en una ausencia. Seguramente la política legal y local con respecto a la asistencia como años anteriores.
Schedules will be provided to your student the week prior to August 24th. Sample schedules in this plan serve as an example of what a day could look like for your student.
Okay, Andrea.
Los horarios se le proporcionarán a sus estudiantes la semana anterior al 24 de agosto. Los horarios se muestra en este plan sirven como un ejemplo de cómo podría ser un día para su estudiante. Solo una maestra vea la página 7.
Attendance during synchronous times is very important. Parents play a vital role in ensuring that students are following the schedules and participating in learning.
La asistencia durante los tiempos sincrónicos es muy importante. Ustedes como padres pueden participar y garantizar que los estudiantes sigan los horarios y participen en el aprendizaje.
This is an example of what an on-campus day could look like, and then what a remote schedule could look like.
Está enseñando ejemplos como los horarios pueden ver. Si elige enviar a su estudiante a un aprendizaje en el plantel, en la escuela, ustedes pueden ver los ejemplos del horario.
These are just samples, but it will be very important to notice when the synchronous times are on the schedule.
Eso nomás son ejemplos, pero es importante que vean los tiempos sincrónicos para que tengan crédito los estudiantes de asistir a las clases.
If you choose to send your student to on-campus learning, we will follow the social distancing guidelines provided to us by the Texas Education Agency and other agencies.
Si ustedes escojan enviar a su estudiante a aprender o estudiar en el plantel, en la escuela, vamos a seguir todas las reglas de distanciamiento social que han mandado todas las reglas de Agencia de Educación de Texas.
While in attendance on campus, if the number of students exceeds the acceptable capacity of the classroom, then a virtual hub will be utilized for students to join instruction on a device.
Mientras que están en la escuela y si el número de estudiantes es más de la capacidad aceptable en un salón, vamos a usar un centro virtual para que los estudiantes pueden separar y también estudiar en otro lugar allí en la escuela.
We will call these virtual hubs, which is an open location used to place students and then rotate them into face-to-face instruction based on a rotation schedule.
Ustedes pueden tener la pregunta ¿qué es? Vamos a llamarlo un centro virtual. Este centro es es un lugar abierto y vamos a utilizar ese lugar para que los estudiantes pueden estudiar al mismo tiempo que los estudiantes están en el salón y vamos a poner en rotación o un horario para que no estén en ese centro virtual diario.
We will be filling in gaps at the beginning of the school year that were created by our closure in March.
Lo que vamos a estudiar al principio del año escolar es ellos que los puntos que faltaron empezando en marzo cuando no tuvimos las clases. Eso es lo que vamos a empezar a estudiar de nuevo al principio del año.
If you need ideas on resources, our community to help your students, our community resource center is full of them, and there's a link to this center on our website.
Si ustedes necesitan ideas para cosas para ayudar a sus hijos en casa, nuestro sitio tienen muchas ideas para estar repasando todas las cosas de currículo en lectura y también en matemática.
That's it.
Okay, we're going to ask our elementary principal to introduce herself and speak.
Hi, my name is Carmen Maglavaz, and I am the elementary principal and early childhood principal.
Ella la directora en la escuela primaria y las dos escuelas primarias.
All right, so the 2nd through 12th grade students will be following the plan exactly as Ms. Robinson just laid out.
Todos los estudiantes que están del segundo al 12 grado van a seguir el plan como dijo la señora Robinson.
Our pre-K, K, and 1 kids will be issued tablets that they can use to access Seesaw.
Los estudiantes que están en pre-K, en kinder y también en primer grado, ellos van a usar tablets, esos son cosas electrónicas, y ellos van a usar un sitio que se llama Seesaw para tener acceso a sus lecciones.
And then 2nd through 12th grade will be using a program called Schoology.
Los estudiantes que están en segundo hasta 12 van a usar un programa que se llama Schoology.
This will not be like what happened March through May. It'll just have a lot of technology components.
Esto va a ser mucho diferente que los clases que tuvimos en marzo hasta mayo. Vamos a usar otros programas tecnológicos.
The district has purchased cameras that will track the teachers as they're moving around the classroom, so the students are able to see and hear exactly what's happening in the classroom and see the kids that are in the classroom as well.
Los estudiantes, I'm sorry, let me start over again. El distrito escolar ha comprado cámaras y esas cámaras van a estar viendo y haciendo video a los maestros para que los estudiantes que están estudiando en casa puedan ver las lecciones de los maestros.
Students who receive special education and 504 services will hear you will be contacted by their case managers and teachers about how those services are going to be provided and working out the schedules.
Estudiantes que reciben servicios de educación especial o del programa 504, ustedes como padres, ustedes van a oír y van a recibir información de los empleados o los maestros que están encargados de esos servicios. También van a comunicarse con ustedes de sus horarios.
Also, our pre-K and kinder babies who this may be their first time coming to school, we will have special instructions for them on how their first few days will go. So be on the lookout for that information about mid-August.
Y también para los estudiantes que están al principio de empezar la escuela, ellos que están en pre-K y también en kinder, ustedes tal vez tienen preguntas cómo van a ser los primeros días, y también la escuela va a estar en comunicados con ustedes de cómo van a empezar los primeros días. Entonces, ellos como maestros y como directores en la escuela primaria van a comunicarse en detalle con ustedes de esos primeros días.
And then all students will be asked to wear masks in the classroom. We know there's some rules out there saying only ages 10 and up have to wear them. But here in Natalia ISD, we are going to ask all students to wear a mask throughout the school day. So if you haven't already started practicing and using masks with your kids, please do so.
En nuestro distrito escolar vamos a requerir que todos los estudiantes usan máscaras en los salones y también en la escuela, por donde quiera. Ustedes pueden, tal vez han oído reglas de estudiantes que nomás tienen que tienen 10 años o más, tienen que usar máscaras, pero en nuestro distrito escolar vamos a requerir que todo el mundo usan máscaras. Y entonces, para ellos, ustedes como padres de niños más chiquitos, es importante que ustedes pongan a practicar usar la máscara en casa.
And that's all I have. I'm turning it over to Dr. Camacho.
Es todo para la señora Maglava.
Mute, Dr.
Can't hear you, Dr. Camacho.
Me on mute. My name is Dr. Camacho. I'm the junior high principal, and I will be going over technology deployment.
Él es el director del Junior High, se llama el doctor Camacho, y él va a presentar información de tecnología.
Okay. First, Chromebooks and hotspots will be passed out at each campus for each student.
Los Chromebooks y hotspots, esos son las cosas electrónicas. Vamos a ofrecer las computadoras en cada plantel. Ustedes pueden venir para que podamos entregar a ustedes.
It will be a drive up and check out of Chromebooks, so you will not have to get out of your vehicle.
Ustedes pueden pasar en el carro y nomás quedarse en su automóvil. Nomás pueden pasar y vamos a estar allá enfrente de la escuela para darle la computadora.
You will check out a Chromebook and or hotspot for each of your children at their campus on August 19th and August 20th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Esto va a ser el 19 y el 20 de agosto, desde la 1 hasta las 7 de la tarde. Ustedes pueden pasar en la escuela y pueden agarrar una computadora para cada estudiante que tiene en su casa.
A technology contract will need to be filled out by the parent and student to ensure the safety of our technology.
Ustedes tienen que firmar un contrato o una hoja para que diciendo que entienden las reglas de usar la computadora en su casa.
The Chromebook will be checked out to your student for the entire school year. This will reduce the chances of cross-contamination.
Usted puede quedarse con la computadora todo el año escolar, y eso va a ser para que se queden limpio la computadora.
The Chromebook needs to be used only by the student that is checked out to.
Es importante que use nomás solamente la computadora que para su hijo o en otras palabras es importante que no comparten las computadoras uno a cada uno.
The student will need the Chromebook every day at school or during virtual classes.
Su hijo va a necesitar usar la computadora cada día, diario, si está en casa o si está en la escuela.
An inexpensive pair of earbuds with a microphone will be required for class for each student.
Oh goodness, I might need some help. I'm not sure how to say ear.
Auriculares. Auriculares.
Auriculares.
Ajá.
Okay, thank you. Es importante que tengan estos para estar en comunicación con su maestro.
Natalia ISD electronic devices will not be supported by the Natalia Technology Department.
Si ustedes quieren usar su propia computadora, ustedes tienen que entender que nuestro departamento de tecnología no pueden asistir o atender o ayudar con esa computadora.
Natalia ISD will monitor the usage of all Natalia ISD devices.
El departamento de tecnología, ellos van a estar repasando el uso de cada cosa electrónica.
And then technology support will be email the NISD help desk at nataliaisd.net.
Si ustedes necesitan ayuda, pueden hacer un email, un correo electrónico al help desk. Ese es el email para tener ayuda.
And that's all.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Camacho. Dr. Hewitt, it's your turn.
Oh, that's right. Mi parte nomás es para decir que la asistencia de una escuela preparatoria, ustedes, no sé si saben, pero quiero explicarle, los estudiantes tienen que ganar el crédito de cada curso. Es una regla del Estado, que tienen que tener una asistencia de 90% o más. Por eso es importante que si ustedes quieren escoger que estudien en casa, es importante que su hijo o hija tienen que estar en contacto y tienen que estar como asistiendo a las clases. Como quiere estar en casa, tienen que asistir a la clase como en esta manera con su maestro cada día. En otras palabras, si tienen que seguir el horario. Por ejemplo, si usted o su hijo tiene el primer periodo, tal vez tiene biología o tiene álgebra, es importante que en esa hora de seguir el horario, su hijo tiene que estar en la computadora en ese tiempo viendo la lección en vivo con la maestra en ese tiempo para recibir crédito. Y como tener el crédito de asistencia para ese día y es importante que atenda cada clase cada día para tener el crédito. That's all for my part.
All right, thank you. Ms. Buenrostro.
Buenas noches, yo soy la señora Leticia Buenrostro, yo soy la directora ejecutiva de servicios académicos. En marzo hasta mayo, nuestros maestros de Natalia previsitó servicios desde teleterapia hasta soporte en la línea, así como el seguimiento de los estudiantes con una llamada telefónica. Nuestros estudiantes en programas especiales, por ejemplo, educación especial 504, que se llama 504, bilingüe, dislexia, dotados y talentosos continuarán con adaptaciones y modificaciones durante el día escolar, ya sea en persona o virtual. Las reuniones con los padres vamos a continuar a través de una plataforma en la línea y o en persona. Cualquier evaluación o prueba recomendar continuar. Si utilizar el distanciamiento social o equipo de protección personal, según corresponda. So nosotros vamos a dar los académicos para los estudiantes en estos programas especiales. Si están en la casa o están en la escuela, vamos a ayudar a los estudiantes en estos programas. Si tienes preguntas, por favor, nomás me llamen. Información va a estar en este programa que vamos a poner en el internet para nosotros de Natalia ISD. Gracias.
All right. We're about to go to Coach Martinez.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ilion Martinez. I'm the athletic director here at Natalia. I just got a few things to cover. Number one, all student athletes will be allowed to participate in athletics, whether they are in person or remote learning throughout the course of the year. But transportation for those who are choose to remote learn will not be provided by our program or the district. So if you intend on remote learning, you will still be required to find a ride to practice. And that's going to be part of the expectations on your part.
El señor Martínez es el director de Atlético y él está diciendo nomás que si ustedes escogen que sus hijos estudien en casa, sí pueden participar en deportes o en grupos extracurriculares, pero la cosa es que pueden venir a practicar después de las clases, pero no podemos dar transportación a venir a las prácticas. Ustedes como padres tienen que llevar y recoger a sus hijos para participar si quieren estudiar en casa.
Dr. Hewitt, I want to add something. While remote learners can participate in extracurricular activities, they do need to participate in practice to learn to come to school and be part of practice so that they are safe and have the knowledge they need to either play an instrument or play football or whatever extracurricular activity they're in.
La superintendente está diciendo que si su hijo está estudiando en casa, es importante que vengan a las prácticas, porque es importante que sus hijos saben lo que están dando las instrucciones, los coaches, y si tal vez están tocando un instrumento o están participando en otro equipo, es importante que participen en las prácticas.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mendez.
All right, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Okay.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Sergio Méndez y soy uno de los directores aquí en la banda de Natalia. Solo tengo algunas fechas para nuestro programa. Comenzaremos nuestra práctica de banda de verano el 13 de agosto con grupos pequeños. Nuestra fecha de inicio para comenzar nuestro concurso de marchas se cambió al 7 de septiembre y estaremos planeando comenzar nuestro concurso de marcha ese día. El concurso de marcha regional está programado para el 14 de noviembre y el concurso de marcha de área será en diciembre, pero aún no tenemos esa fecha. Sé que hay muchas preguntas y entraremos en más detalles a medida que avanzamos. Asegúrese de estar en nuestro mensaje de Remind para obtener más información. Gracias por tu tiempo.
All right, we have Ms. Saldana, please. She's not available right this minute. All right. I want to thank everyone for participating today. I appreciate your time. I want you to know that our goal is to provide a quality instructional program for your child, whether they are remote or on campus.
La superintendente está diciendo que otra vez que damos la gracia a ustedes por su tiempo para estar con nosotros esta noche. Es importante que ustedes sepan y entiendan que nuestra meta es tener una experiencia para sus hijos educativa que es efectiva y también seguro, que el ambiente estar seguro cada día y ustedes pueden estar seguros que sus hijos estamos dando las lecciones más efectivas que podemos si ustedes escogen estudiar en casa o estudiar en la escuela. Y también otra vez damos las gracias por su tiempo y su presencia esta noche.
And I see that Ms. Saldana can hear us now. Ms. Saldana, would you like to speak?
Yes. If someone would be able to translate it, because I know I won't be able to get all those words out. But so Natalia ISD utilizes a variety of platforms to share important information with our families. When important information needs to get sent out, the district will contact families either by email, phone, text message, via Blackboard. We will use contact information from your registration packet. So please ensure that all information is current and up to date.
La señora Saldaña está dando la información que ustedes pueden estar en comunicación con nosotros y tenemos varios métodos de comunicarse con ustedes. Correo electrónico, también el sitio de internet, también en sitios sociales como Facebook y Twitter. Y también tenemos un programa que se llama Blackboard. Es importante que ustedes que den a nosotros la información más corriente, el teléfono corriente y también el correo electrónico de ustedes, cada quien la dirección para que esté corriente. Es importante para comunicarse nosotros con ustedes.
And so that we can provide a quality program for everyone, we will need your feedback. If things are not going right, you need help, please contact the school, email a teacher so that we can help you because we do want it to be successful.
Componente bien importante para nosotros es su opinión y también sus preguntas. Y si ustedes tienen preguntas, por favor estén en contacto con cada escuela y podemos ayudar a ustedes.
And I don't see any questions right now, but if you have questions, we have a couple of ways for you to ask them. You can contact Ms. Saldana. You can do it through social media, or there is a link within the instruction plan. Is that correct, Ms. Robinson? Unmute.
Yes, there is a link to a Google form that you can enter questions that you might have after tonight.
Hay varias métodos otra vez o maneras para darnos sus preguntas. Puede estar en contacto con la señora Saldaña, la Marisa Saldaña, mandarse email. También usted hay en la red de nuestra página, en el internet, nataliaisd.net. También hay un lugar, se llama un Google Form. Es una hoja electrónica que ustedes pueden meterse las preguntas allí y nosotros podemos atender a sus preguntas.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone who logged in to hear us tonight. Provide feedback if you would like to, and let us know if this platform worked for you, and we'll try it again for other issues. Things may change, but we are going to start school on August 24th, and we look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Gracias por venir y si ustedes tienen preguntas, por favor. Y también si le gustaron este modo de comunicarse, den esa información también. Vamos a empezar la clase el 24 de agosto y si tenemos más información, vamos a compartir eso con ustedes en cuanto pueda.
All right. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Bye.
Gracias.